Coming up on today's show.
Can science help you fall in love? Manchester Science Festival answers this question.
The Day of the Dead arrives in Salford.
And destination Manchester Airport as we climb on board a research plane.
Good afternoon and welcome to Friday First. I'm Jared Mannion.
And I'm P. Muhlenstein.
We have a little bit of everything for you today, from Salford and Manchester.
Most millennials would have read the books or watched the films in the Harry Potter franchise. Somewhere in that canon is the love potion. But is there such a spell to invoke romance? Whilst the magical potion sadly does not exist, scientific potions and logic may help people fall in love.
Our reporter Laura Bailey visited Amaranth, a dating experiment taking place in Manchester.
Manchester Science Festival has taken a different approach to dating by experimenting how people fall in love.
Is there a formula behind falling in love? Well, here at Zifferblatt this evening, Manchester Science Festival have asked couples to answer 36 questions over 3 courses in the hopes that they will find a closer connection.
Manchester Science Festival has run throughout October to create meaningful science experiences.
We decided to make a really immersive and interactive experience where people come along and we're trying to make them fall in love using a series of performances. We've got scientists along this evening, psychologists and mixologists like myself along as well. So all these factors combined will create a really unique experience for each individual and each couple coming here this evening.
Couples rated their connection level throughout the night using playing cards. Results show that on a scale of 1 to 13, the average couple's score rose from 7 to 11 by the end of the night. But what do scientists think it all boils down to?
Well, there's lots of things that do happen kind of biologically to us when we fall in love. So, I mean, people sometimes say that, you know, the chemistry isn't right between people, and that's some indication that, yeah, there's some biological interaction that's happening. So our brain releases certain endorphins or certain chemicals are produced by our bodies when we're attracted to somebody. So those things are pretty clear scientifically, and of course they do promote certain feelings. So we know that there is some science to it, but of course falling in love is a deeply psychological thing, it's a deeply social thing, so you have to get those things right really to also make sure you have something solid.
From couples to first dates, Manchester Science Festival has tested the theory behind creating the spark.
It's kind of opened up kind of conversations and I think we've had a really nice time. Obviously, we've also been asked to rate how closely we feel about each other.
Don't show me the
depending
card.
on the questions. So we'll have to see whether or not how we match up at the end. So it could be the end.
Or the beginning.
Or the beginning. We'll have to wait and see.
Laura Bailey, Quays News.
Brexit or no Brexit? Sounds like a bad game show. But it's not all fun and games as leaving the European Union becomes a more serious prospect. Yesterday, the High Court's ruled that Parliament must vote on triggering Article 50.
With the referendum vote affecting universities, we asked staff and students at the University of Salford what they thought of the High Court decision.
No, I don't think we should have had a referendum. I think it should have been down to the MPs. But we did have a referendum, and that's why you have a referendum, because when things are that passionate with some people, that's why you have a referendum. So that's override. The referendum's overrided it, so it needs to be on the referendum decision.
Obviously, we voted in the referendum for something, but at the same time, we voted our members of Parliament as well, which means that the Parliament in itself should act on behalf of the people. But that obviously is something that's up to every MP to decide, depending on what his constituency wants as well.
I don't think it should be up to Theresa May because she wasn't elected with a vote. She's not the people's person. She was kind of just put up there when everything else fell through. So I think Parliament have got more of an understanding of what the people want than she does.
Now, from strong negotiations to strongmen, I visited the Great Harwood Gym in Blackburn to learn more about the sport of strongman. When it comes to athletes in the Northwest, a lot of things come to mind, but one that may slip under the radar are strongmen. I've come to Great Harwood Gym to meet some of the competitors and learn a little bit more about the sport. Tom Linklater is an amateur strongman who's achieved countrywide success at British competitions.
Strongman is it's designed to be an awkward sport, so you don't particularly have the usual gym lifts. It's a mixture of usual gym lifts to, like, you could do your Atlas stones, a car deadlift, car flip. So breakfast in the morning, usually get up at around 6 o'clock, I have my breakfast, which will be 200 to 300 grams of porridge with a couple of scoops of protein in. Then at 10 o'clock I'll have 2 tins of mackerel in like a mixed vegetable bag, broccoli, carrots, that kind of thing.
So Strongman, it can't be that hard, can it? Tom, you're going to give me a little tutorial about how I do this.
Right, what you want to do is put your feet under the bar and just tilt the log to a 45-degree angle. From there, all you do is stand up straight, lift it onto your thighs, and you flick it through and roll it onto your chest, press the weight above your head.
It is. At the Great Harwood Gym, athletes are also produced for the world stage. Mark Felix is a professional strongman and long-time veteran at the World's Strongest Man competition.
We're just doing loads of competition, do a lot of traveling. I have 2 more competitions this year. Week after next week, I'm going to Sweden to do a Giants Live. I come back, I spend 3 days home, and then I'm flying to South Africa to do African Strongest Man.
The jump between the amateur scene and the professional scene is absolutely massive. To make that jump is a lot of dedication, a lot of food, a lot of training, a lot of understanding from your family. Personally, I'd like to reach the level of a Britain's Strongest Man and do well there. I don't think I'll ever reach World's Strongest Man, but I'll be happy with Britain's Strongest Man.
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling strong. You know, there's no niggles or anything like that. I just, you know, come train hard. I still lift as heavy as I usually do. Feeling fantastic. So as long as the body holding up and I got a drive, I'll just keep going.
It's clear that in the humble surroundings of a small gym in Blackburn, winners are being made. Jared Mannion, Quays News.
The Manchester Science Festival landed in the city, celebrating its 10th year over 10 days. One of the destinations was Manchester Airport, and I went down to take a look. On the outside, it looks just like a normal plane, but on the inside, it is the largest, most capable research airplane in Europe. Flying as low as 50 feet and carrying up to 4,000 kilos of instrumentation, it is certainly high risk, a risk these scientists must take in order to gain the best possible research. I'm here at the facility of airborne atmospheric measurements at Manchester Airport at an open day. It is important that events like this take place for the general public to see just exactly what the scientists are doing their research for.
A maximum of 20 seats on board, so there's 2 pilots at the front. There's a mission scientist who writes a sortie brief the day before, submit that by midday. They put the plan into air traffic so that our plan is NOTAMs, which is an aeronautical thing that all aircraft have to do, so that people can be aware of where we're going to be flying, because we do unusual flying patterns. We can fly from 100 feet above the sea up to 35,000. That's very unusual for an aircraft this size. If this was a passenger aircraft, it would hold 104 people. So you get an idea of the size of the aircraft from that, and just by looking down at it, you can see.
The aircraft opened its doors to the general public last week to show exactly what goes on behind closed doors, allowing people to experience life inside the aircraft and gain knowledge as to why exactly we need these scientists in the air. Without proper funding for the aircraft and the scientists that work on board, these experiments can't be done and research would be limited.
We need to do calibrations on board. That's what we're using our cylinders for, and we're measuring all the pollution gases like carbon dioxide, methane. We can measure ozone and SO2 as well.
Groups were taken on tours throughout the day by the scientists themselves, explaining what some of the most valuable scientific instruments in the aircraft can do. Some were lucky enough to get a hands-on experience dropping a drop sonde from the plane and sitting in the flight deck.
Where you're stood is where the mission scientist lives and sits, okay? And he or she runs the whole mission, so they're probably the most important person on the aeroplane, okay?
The science crew, consisting of a mixture of University, Met Office and NERC scientists, recently flew over Manchester and Liverpool to test out the city's air pollution. This is just one of the very many different projects these scientists work on to gather measurements for authorities to improve things like air quality. Pien Meulenstein reporting for Quays News.
The Queer Media Festival is entering its 3rd year this weekend, showcasing the best voices in LGBT community, on screen and off. The festival, organised by Salford University graduate Jamie Starboyski, will be featuring screenings of LGBT films and panels with their filmmakers. With us now is the organiser of the LGBT Media Festival, called Queer Media. Welcome, Jamie and Eleanor.
So, Jamie, can you tell me a little bit about what the Queer Media Festival is about?
The Queer Media Festival is in its third year, and it's really an opportunity for people to showcase a range and the ways that LGBT voices and stories are told. So we've got 3 different panels. We've got people who've done theatre performances, people who work as filmmakers, broadcasters, and people who've done some live performances. We're showing some short films, and we've also got some dancers doing a performance and some workshops as well on the day.
Now, Eleanor, you're speaking at the festival tomorrow. Why don't you just give us a little taste of what you're going to be talking about?
Yeah, so I'm a documentary filmmaker with RTE, which is the national broadcaster in Ireland, and my most recent documentary was made entirely using mobile journalism, so it was made entirely on an iPhone. So while my story isn't an LGBT story, Jamie invited me over to talk about mobile journalism and how that can empower you to tell your own stories, because it's a cost-effective way to get into filmmaking or documentary filmmaking. So it's just kind of make people aware of the mobile journalism method and how accessible it is.
Right, so where does the history from the name come from, the Queer Media Festival?
The Queer Media Festival was basically inspired by Joanne Harris, who wrote the film Chocolate, to tell well-made stories. So the history of it being called queer is because queer is an umbrella term that covers sexuality and gender identity. And so we want to show people that we're inclusive as possible.
And Jamie, what's the history behind the actual running of the festival? How did you kind of come up with the idea, and where did it all start?
After I saw Joanne Harris's talk at TEDx Salford, which was at the Lowry, she spoke about how she used proceeds from Chocolate to write a chocolate book, because so many people wanted to read this chocolate book. The proceeds have actually then sailed down the Congo curing sleeping sickness, and she met this amazing African lady who was about to die from sleeping sickness. She cured her, and in the process had a conversation with the lady, said, we're all made of stories, and one story at a time we're changing the world. And I thought this was a really amazing way for LGBT people to pick up that mantra and start to tell their own stories in whatever form possible, which was really encouraging.
Brilliant. So finally, what kind of people do you expect to come, and when is it on?
The Queer Media Festival is on at Manchester New Arts Centre Home tomorrow, 5th of November. It's on noon till late, midnight. We've got an after party. The range of people that can come, it's open and accessible for anybody of any range and any gender identity, sexuality. We're all welcome, and it's going to be a really great fun day.
Great. Yeah. Guys, thanks so much for joining us today, and best luck with it all. Now then, with Halloween on Monday, we've heard the Night of the Living Dead. But what about Day of the Dead? Well, it's a Mexican celebration that has now arrived in Salford. Andy Watson reports.
Celebration to commemorate the loved ones who are no longer with us. Dia de Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is a holiday traditionally celebrated throughout Mexico, and the festivities made their way to Islington Mill in Salford.
I realise that in this country there is no celebration of people that have passed, for friends and lots of people to get together and celebrate lives and our nearest and dearest who are no longer with us.
In a year that has seen a number of celebrity deaths, event organisers encourage the festival goers to don skull face paint and share memories of those who have passed, as well as making a donation to the Anthony Nolan charity.
There's a huge shortage of stem cell donors worldwide, and Anthony Nolan is not government funded and not NHS funded, so we rely on charitable donations.
The event took place until the early morning, offering those in attendance a unique way to honour the dead.
I've hung a picture of my father up there, and I've lit a candle and had a bit of a moment of contemplation and stuff, because it's about celebration of life. That's what it's about, and with a Mancunian twist.
I'm Andy Watson for Quays News.
Finally, tonight in Albert Square, something very exciting is happening. It's that time of year already. The Christmas lights are being switched on at 7:30. Many people are going to be there, including Louisa Johnson, Paddy McGuinness. So if you're into that and getting into the Christmas spirit, there's only one place to be.
Well, that's all from us today at Friday First.
See you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.